The premise of Magic the Gathering is you are a planeswalker, so you have the ability to travel in between different worlds, and you basically use the spells you find on those worlds to defeat your opponent. As I said in the last video, each player starts out with 20 life, and the goal is to get your opponent down to 0. So while most people generally tend to ignore the lore behind Magic the Gathering, I'm going to take a minute or 2 or 3 to point out to you why the lore actually has relevance with regards to the game. So since I said that these videos would focus on Standard, that means you have access to about 2 of the various Magic planes at any given time. Of course, if you're playing Freeform or like Kitchen Table, where you have access to all of the cards, have fun. There are over 12,000 cards across the various planes of Magic. Use them as you see fit, you know, if you know what you're looking for. But if you don't, 12,000 cards is kind of a lot, so Standard. Back to Standard. So the 2 planes that Standard players have access to are Ravnica and Innistrad. So because Ravnica is the newer plane with regards to the Standard cycle, let's take a look at what makes the Ravnica plane so special. Because each plane offers players access to different things that affect the way the game plays. Generally, if you go to a tournament, you'll notice that most decks consist of either a single color of mana or 2 colors of mana. But we are in Ravnica, which means that is actually not the case anymore, because you're more likely to send 3 colors and even 4 and 5 color decks, as opposed to when Ravnica isn't in the cycle. The reason for this is simple. What Ravnica offers that most other planes don't is a lot of land that produces multiple colors of mana. That is one of the unique qualities about Ravnica. The other plane that Standard players have access to is Innistrad. And Innistrad is horror themed, which means you have access to zombies, werewolves, humans, vampires, ghosts, and any other kind of horror movie thing that you can think of. This means that with Innistrad you have a lot more decks that are focused on specific creature types. Which means while you normally wouldn't run around with a card that let you destroy vampires and werewolves, because Innistrad is around, destroying vampires and werewolves seems like a pretty good plan. Stepping for a second outside of Standard and dipping into Extended with the set that just cycled out, the Scars of Mirrodin set, Mirrodin is a plane entirely made of metal, which means artifacts were a huge part of Mirrodin. Whereas on other planes you might have 1 or 2 really good artifacts, there were a lot of really good artifacts on the Mirrodin plane this cycle. There was Wormcoil Engine, there were 3 different swords, there was Batterskull, Tumble Magnet, Ratchet Bomb. So while in most decks you probably wouldn't want to run Artifact Destruction mainboard, when Mirrodin was around, you would. So paying attention to the planes that are currently available and what is special about those planes can help not only decide what cards you want to play, but also help you figure out what kind of decks your opponents are going to be playing.